everything. But yeah, we do see that Asuna go for a Ford very quickly afterwards. So you talked about what cheese are we going to see? Well, it is definitely going to be a little bit cheesy here from Asuna.
Yeah, it's going to be a kind of rush right away. So he's going to get those pylons down here. And Scarlett already giving up on it. So she deems it that, you know, she's not going to be able to stop it. She's going to go for a third base elsewhere. Likely to cancel this, though. Asuna's giving her okay. So she'll just bring the single drone here to make sure that Asuna drops an extra 2 pylons, right? Which is worth it for the time that drone's not going to mine for. Asuna already pretty cool leapfrogging the first cannon forward. And he has an expo. So he puts a lot of stock in that and is able to transition into a very, very fast robo. So this is extremely quick, but you know, Scarlett has seen about 1 billion of these, so we'll see if this works.
Certainly has. And the Roddy Scout becomes useful when you do it like this with a follow-up.
Oh, yeah.
Already an Immortal out. That's a lot of shield batteries as well. It's always funny when I see things like this, and I'm like, those shield batteries spawn with 50% of the energy they used to, and people still try it even now, and it's like, it must have been too good before, right? It must have been. Anyhow, this is quite nice defense so far by Scarlett, with the Ravagers, the Biles, saving the Queens as well for their transfuse energy later on.
Yeah. If you're Asuna, you gotta stop dropping those batteries in range of the high ground, basically, right? Like he keeps dropping that battery that can actually be sniped from the side without any risk on the side of Scarlett. So I don't love that battery, but once the Warp Prism is here, there's gonna be just about infinite micro potential from these Immortals, and that's when things starts getting scary. Scarlett knows that, wants to jump on this.
No.
Earlier, the Queen that had energy goes out of creep, cannot transfuse out of creep, as we well know, and now these Immortals are trying to get chased before the Warp Prism spawns, but it's here now, and then this now looks amazing for Asuna.
That was quite... I mean, that was crazy by Scarlett. The fact that she marched forward with that full energy Queen there that took all the damage and died immediately, that was not good. Look at Asuna. Look how well he's trading here.
Yeah, because he has like 1 trillion shield batteries, and that was a complete overextension on the side of Scarlett. I would have much rather seen her try to mass up units, but I can also understand, because once the Warp Prism's out, again, infinite micro potential pretty much for Asuna, so it does get more difficult in some senses. And Scarlett never transitioned into something like Lean Speed or something like that, but she does have the extra expansion out to where she could have maybe looked to set up a surround. So Ben, we might be brewing another upset here, or I guess an upset, I should say.
Tell you what, I did say Asuna was fun to watch, man, and he damn well is. I know there's non-Protoss players right now frothing at the mouth watching this kind of stuff, but after spending some time away, this is what I missed, man.
Yeah, this is a very interesting approach, however, from Scarlett. She's going to go after the buildings and completely ignore the Immortals on her high ground, and that is a pretty cool approach. Already taken down 2 shield batteries for free. Oh, so looking for alternate solutions here. Oh, finds an Immortal. That's actually huge.
That was super huge, and definitely a bit of a miss micro there by Asuna, because technically you shouldn't really lose anything, and Scarlett's actually making this somewhat happen, but whenever you're pulling drones against this, that always feels real bad.
Real bad. I mean, the worker counts are even, so I mean, the drones kind of make sense to soak up damage, but not once the links are there. I think you can just you don't need to do that. Just pull the drones back, I think, if you're Scarlett, but she is definitely making headway here. There's another Immortal in production, but far away.
There is, and there's a very healthy shield battery at the back there, and I mean, Asuna needs these shield batteries to finish, because these Immortals, even though there's 2 still alive, how many kills do they have, by the way? 1 with 4, 1 with 16. Queen in the main base will be taken out, but the Robo's going down, cats.
That's huge. That is, I mean, that's all that Scarlett's going to need to hold here. She will lose additional workers, so she is behind on that account, but Asuna never transitioned. He doesn't have a Nexus on the way, even though he's floating 800 resources, Ben, and I mean, that's a lot of resources to float.
It certainly is, and he can't produce anything right now. Oh my goodness,
he could produce 2 Nexus. Yeah, I mean, he could definitely have a finished Nexus already. And if he did, his economic position would not be the worst by any means. Now dropping a Stargate on his side of things, but still no Nexus and still floating 600 resources. I mean, you're gonna have to drop a Nexus at some point, so the earlier the better.
Is he though? Maybe. I mean, this...
What are you going to spend? There it is. I mean, what else are you going to spend your money on, though?
Double Stargate, Mass Void Ray or Phoenix at this point. Who knows? Who knows? I've seen a lot of Rotty games, okay? There's a lot of unconventional protossality out there, okay? But, I mean, Asuna, that was really unfortunate. He lost as many Immortals as he did there. And even though I think Scarlett's very much ahead right now, I don't necessarily think it's just about what Scarlett did. Oh, no. Oh, I think it's a lot about Asuna making just a few little micro errors there that maybe cost him way too much.
Scarlett did great, but yeah, one of those immortals falling pretty early, and Asuna not really utilizing the shield battery in the very back that you were talking about as well. That shield battery had a lot of energy that could have given a lot of fuel to those other two remaining immortals for a while. Then Scarlett, I mean, she took a really great positional advantage and killed a couple of batteries for free, while Asuna was focusing on the main and not really getting much done with that. So there were definitely some key moments here where Scarlett is going to pull ahead, and yeah, she's now very well ahead. There is a chance that Scarlett could go for a timing here. Just Queen Ravager can be pretty effective against carriers.
And Infestors, that'd be great for the Microbial Shroud. Once a meme spell, but now pretty damn good. I'm kind of almost sad that we went away from like Mass Queen with armor upgrades and Microbial Shroud because it turned out really freaking cool. But yeah, we might actually see Mass Queen with some Microbial Shroud this game. And Scarlett, that creep spread, she's known for it. She was known for it long before any other Zerg was, pretty much. And yeah, it's starting to get to a scary spot here.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is one of the easier maps to creep forward on. So Asuna is recognizing that and the potential, and very well done here. Brings an Oracle and will push that back for the time being. And without that, Scarlett, if Scarlett can't find the timing, then her army is going to become a little bit more obsolete over time. Though, like you were saying, it is a style that has been explored and that Dark like to take to the late game, so I'm sure Scarlett's no stranger to it. So it's not like she will auto lose if she can't find the timing, but I think she definitely is looking for that timing.
Yeah, absolutely. And she gets a really good scout there on exactly what she's up against, sees the carriers, sees the Stargates, and you know, that's a reasonably early scout. Granted, Asuna, after the initial aggro, has been very much content with being on his side of the map and just hoping and praying that his opponent doesn't come and slap him about a bit, but the time is nigh, cats. It's very soon. Hive is done now. More queens, 16 queens, 3 at a time, double spire on the way as well. We're going to start seeing some real big, juicy upgrades from Scarlett.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that Scarlett that has lost games for Scarlett, I think, against the likes of Nib and stuff, is maybe overdoing it in terms of like just upgrades and just thinning herself out a little bit too much. If she drops like an Ultra then, as well as going for Brute Lords, and you know, she just gets everything, I can find that to be a little bit problematic. But as long as she stays focused on what she wants right now, she's kind of doing a little bit of both. She has this timing, but she has a Corruptor follow-up should this go to the late game. So let's see if this will work out. The creep is not there really, so she's going to struggle to push on forward. Asuna doesn't need to meet her at the creep, but he's going to.
He does, and he's met by a lot of Cloud Queens over here. They're not taking any damage whatsoever. The Interceptor count getting truly thinned out here as well, and Scarlet's supply not dwindling whatsoever. And those carriers, mate, they're blimps in the sky. They can do nothing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the Interceptors, yeah, there's no more Interceptors, basically. So the Queens have definitely won that fight, and without AoE, without Disruptors or High Templar to shower under those clouds, they are going to be extremely durable. And the creep spread is now at Asuna's doorstep. So the Queens are going to have an easy time transfusing, and the Infestors will continue to provide coverage for them. Asuna's going to tap out, and Scarlett will take it. And I would expect to see an Oracle first.
Yeah. Given that it's Asuna, I would love to kind of predict what it's going to be. I think you're totally right with it being an Oracle, because this game right now is just very standard. Like, you've even got the Adept out, Adept playing a little bit careful here, like just making sure that there are no Lings kind of wrapping around or being sneaky. And I think that's good and respectful, because Scarlett is the kind of player, like we haven't talked about this a hell of a lot, she can absolutely whip out some dirty, smelly cheese if she wants to. And Asuna, it feels like he's just being a little bit wary, a little bit careful, and that's definitely not bad play by him.
Right, so he is cutting some corners. He is trying to be greedy. The problem is, against the caliber of player that is Scarlett, she is also going to cut some corners. So she's not going to just have a formula where she makes Zerglings at a given point in time like most Zergs would. She says, you're not making Adepts? You made a Stalker? Okay, I'll just stick with my 4 Zerglings that I made, and I'm not going to make any more. Everything from here on out is droning. So while Asuna is being greedy, Scarlett is more than ready to match his greed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Zerg's one of those races as well where they not only can match their opponent's greed, like they are the masters of greed. Every race has to respect Zerg because they grow the fastest. They are literally that horrible spreading race that if you leave them untouched, they will outpace you in every regard. So the fact that Asuna's kind of cutting his corners, yeah, Scarlett's just said, hey, I'm going to leapfrog you and do one better. Look at how many drones she's already up to at this point. Normally, it's meant to be very close between the races. These are her first extra units that she's making at this point, and these are kind of just like, if something happens, I'd like to have at least something on the field. I mean, like if you're an Asuna fan here and you see what Scarlett's bringing to the table, you're like, please, Asuna, start making some disruptors or something. You know, like something to help with the infestors, the queens, and what have you. Because if you've only got carriers and your opponent's getting infestor queen, you're in trouble. We also see that +1 carapace coming in for Scarlett, and that's a really big deal as well. Because the way that Microbial Shroud works is it halves your damage and then the armor's applied. So if your carrier deals 8 damage, it then deals 4, then you're against 2 armor queens immediately. So your damage gets scuffed beyond repair against the armor value from these queens.
Yeah, and especially because of like the damage output from the interceptors is so low per shot that armor and just the damage mitigation of Microbial Shroud has an extra effect on that, right? So it's basically like you don't do damage with those carriers with whatever's under that Microbial Shroud. So you really are gonna need some disruptors, and there is a robo on the way this time.
That's good. That's good. Like some good disruptor production could help out. Then it's like, okay, what counters the disruptors? Well, Vipers or ZVP late game. It becomes chaotic. Like the Zerg player, you need so many fingers doing all the right stuff that it becomes very difficult. And look at Asuna. Wow. Going for a lot of static defense here, even getting a lot of oracles with stasis traps to just plant down. I like how he's doing this. He's being so annoying.
Yeah, but he is playing a late game against Scarlett, and she is one of the best Zergs in the world for many years, right? So she is very experienced at this. And she is already kind of just situated in a position where she went up to 120 workers at the highest. And now she has started just morphing spores everywhere. So she's going to continue to drone up even at over 100 workers and continue to replace them and make spore forests. So it's going to be very difficult for Asuna to find avenues of attack.
Do you think that Scarlett is... So don't get me wrong. I do think Zerg late game, if you do play it correctly, is better than Protoss late game. But do you feel that there was any window for, instead of investing in all this static defense at all the peripheral bases, for her to, let's say, run forward, plant static defense right in front, and maybe get the kill like she did in game 1, or this didn't call for it?
Yeah, that's the beauty about static defense on Zerg, right? And that is where Zerg gets its advantage primarily in this matchup. In the late game is that you can actually reposition your static defense and Protoss can't. So I think it's good to situate herself in the peripheral bases and just be safe until she has an overwhelming amount of whatever she has. So a lot of the time it's up to the Protoss to make something happen, because as the game progresses, Zerg can actually do exactly what you're saying, leap on forward with just tons of static defense, and the game just gets harder and harder for Protoss.
We do have Broodlords joining the field. Lots more static defense coming down. I also saw a lot more Overseers being warped in there, or rather morphed in, which I like. If you have more Overseers on top of the Vipers, makes them way harder to feed back. Also, changelings for days, you're sending them at your opponent like that. And Asuna, he's close to maxed out here. No disruptors in the mix yet. No high Templars either. Oh, it could get very spicy. Parasitic bombs or abducts or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the Spore Forest is already here, and this army doesn't look that intimidating, to be honest, from Asuna. But he is doing what we were talking about, right? Like, he is looking for some sort of a timing right now. He is getting a lot of terrain and clearing a lot of creep, which is really nice, though.
This is more than I thought he'd be doing. Feels like he's the one bullying around Scarlett a little bit. My goodness, that's
no.
That you can't go in there, mate. You can't go in there. And look at that, even keeping the single Spore Crawler alive. And Scarlett, she's in to play the attrition game here. She's just trading very nicely, sends in a few roaches just to slow down her opponent. She's playing well.
Yeah, she's playing great. I mean, she's gonna lose a whole lot of creep, so maybe to your earlier point, there is some forward positions that maybe she could have like fortified, because now she's gonna have to work her way back up to the other side of the map. So Asuna will gain a lot of time in doing that, and I do like that Asuna didn't really commit to the attack, but rather just cleared all the creep in the outskirts, or most of it anyway.
This is just so rough, man. Like, +3 carapace on the way. We have really good upgrades for Scarlett. In fact, is she on 3 evos at this point? No, just still working on 2 evos. Still being kind of careful about that. Microbial Shroud. Look at that. These interceptors do absolutely nothing. Fungal to take them out as well. That resources lost tab was very much in Asuna's favor early on. Now, and from this point on, probably won't be.
Probably won't be indeed, Ben. I mean, we'll see what Asuna can do, and you know, like at the level that I play, like this is still a very scary game to be in from the Zerg perspective, and this is another situation where the Zerg execution calls for a lot. And Scarlett, this is very adventurous from her though.
That I saw her head shake. I loved it. And yeah, look at that. That was very bad for her. Like I'm not exactly sure what happened there. Definitely a misclick of some sort. And Asuna, I would be surprised if he just goes for it, man. Like to what end? To what end? These Void Rays won't get anything done.
Yeah, and there's still the infestors. A lot of those Void Rays already falling at the front, right? And that's not enough carriers. So I'm not sure that anything went down there. So Asuna overextending, remaxing on Stalkers. That is cute. I want to say, I mean, there's so many Brittlers and Queens. This is just an army of worse quality than you started with now, so it's rough. And yeah, he doesn't even have the bank to remax.
It was almost a bait from Scarlett. I'm thinking it was like some 200 IQ bait. You know, you sacrifice a good portion of your army. You know your opponent's going to attack into you like a raging bull. By the way, we've got to mention Asuna. He is now up to 5 bases, which is good. But Scarlett hasn't really, you know, she's only on 5 bases herself, which is, in fact, yeah, 5 bases herself. Taking her 6th now. Not the fastest expanding by her. Granted, she does have a pretty large bank to work with, but very methodical, slow-paced play from her. I'm finding the game hard to find light at the end of the tunnel for Asuna as this game goes on.
It's extremely difficult, and I mean, Asuna is adding another 2 Immortals, which is going to bring his count up to 4. It is understandable. I maybe would have preferred just a bunch of Archons, and there is 1 being added right now, because that at least doubles down against the air, and it can help against the Corruptors and eventually the Broodlords. It helps against the Broodlings and the Zergling. The Immortals are the counter to the Ultra, but Scarlett is literally just making 1. So, you know, if 1 Ultra forces out 4 Immortals, that's already a win.
Oh, and look at this. That position with the Queens on the high ground. I mean, the feedbacks are pretty damn solid on a lot of these Queens, but it's on Queens, man. Like, what does that do in the long run? Like, these guys just transfuse each other up, and this was Asuna losing a base plus 20 probes for losing a chunk of his army as well. Not value. Not value. And now these Templars are trapped as well, so they will all go down, and that is just terrible news for Asuna. Scarlett has so much on this high ground here. Like, she knows the limitations, yeah. Yeah, that resources lost tab, it's literally over 2-1 in favor of Scarlett now, which that is crazy. And do you see how well she's using her spells as well? Super good transfusions, no units dying. As soon as the interceptors come, fungal. As soon as any unit comes too close, it's like, boom, abducted as well. Really good play. She's utilizing all the spell casters from her arsenal super damn well in her bank. Look at her bank compared to Asuna's.
Yeah.
That was a sigh of pain, right?
Yeah, that was a sign of pain and of me not trying but not finding a pun to make with as soon as and Asuna in the moment.
You know, if Ravi was here, he'd have helped you out. You know,
he would have helped me out. Yeah.
Okay, so Scarlett, she's feeling that this is her point here to move forward a little bit. She has to be a little bit careful, but 1 Archon for her trouble here. Loses a Queen. That's about it. And you know, this so far, it just feels like, what do you do? And that's actually a scary little squad here. There is a large bunch of Zergling Baneling on the left side waiting for it, but
maybe these Archons can jam things. I mean, those Archons in between the spores can actually jam for the Zerglings, and actually great spores while Scarlett's not paying attention, and a lot of the spores are not partaking here. So great storms from Asuna, and as soon as Scarlett is not looking, he capitalizes.
Hey, you're right. As soon as Scarlett did not look, and those Queens, you know what? You know what beats one high-tech Protoss army? A bunch of Queenie boys. or Queenie ladies, I suppose. They're doing a damn good job. Holy crap.
Yeah. I mean, it's those clouds, right? Like the infestor clouds, they are virtually indestructible against interceptors, so you don't want to fight those. But it takes a couple of tries to learn that you really need that AoE. So the fight starts looking great for Asuna as long as those storms were available, but once they dissipate, it becomes a problem.
As soon as the fight started going Scarlett's way, it went really her way, though.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is brutal. This is absolutely brutal. I mean, that fight went about as good as it could, and for a moment there, I started thinking like, oh my god, Asuna's doing it. But
as soon as you thought that, he wasn't doing it.
Yeah, as soon as I thought that, as soon as I didn't.
There it is. And Scarlett.